Hello and welcome to the Herzog Leadership Series. My name is Riley Stapleton and today I'm joined by Kevin Day, our Vice President of Business Services for National Construction. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
All right, so to jump right in, first thing we want to talk about is kind of just the story of your career, early on education, and how you've worked your way up to where you are now.
Yeah, so I started my career at a Class 1 railroad, Canadian National. I jumped into their management trainee program and had the opportunity to do that, which was fantastic because it got me exposed to a lot of facets of the company in a short amount of time. It was about 18 months and did some field infrastructure work and then some design work and kind of see a lot of different things. From there, I just kind of followed a career path and progression in terms of operational programs and engineering infrastructure projects, and went from a number of different roles within the company there for over 20 years, actually, 19 and a half. And you know what? It just kind of progressed normally through opportunities that present themselves. I kind of see leadership as something where you work hard and you do the best you can do, and people recognize that. And I got the fortunate opportunity to have some great mentors that helped me along the way and allowed me to move up the chain.
And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to talk about some of the things that kind of have enabled your rise throughout your career. I know you mentioned, some mentors or trainings that you did, but can you just talk to me about, specific things that have enabled your rise?
Yeah, I think it's kind of simple to me when I look back. It's somebody that wanted to take on new challenges, new opportunities whenever they presented themselves. I think, as with most situations, you need somebody to take an interest in what you're doing, and they see that you're going to produce good results and that you want to be there and you want to work hard, and that opens up new opportunities for you. And so for me, I had a background in education in railroad engineering. So I went to school for civil engineering at Kansas State, ended up at University of Illinois, at a railroad engineering program. I got exposed right there to a lot of the AREMA chapter, and some of the research I was doing there was applicable to some AREMA groups, and I got a chance to meet a lot of people and network through those different discussions on my research projects, and it got me more interested in the railway industry. And then as those folks have a lot of history and experience, they were able to kind of steer me into potential opportunities, and I took one of those with CN. And from there, it was really, like I said, just making sure that you're focused on the job. I've never been somebody that's chased an opportunity, in the sense that obviously most people are ambitious, they have an ambition to them, they want to grow in their role, but I never had to chase a job or a title or anything like that. It just really was from my own hard work, wanting to grow and learn in the job, that got me to the next opportunity. And then once people got to see that, some of the mentors I mentioned earlier, they took that and said, okay, well, we have an opportunity over here, do you want to take that on? And of course, you don't want to refuse those opportunities, even if they involve relocation or taking on, in my case, it was in a different country. I had to go up to Canada for a couple of assignments. And some of those were challenging assignments, but I learned probably the most when the challenging assignments occurred. So, and then again, people just took recognition of those things that I did and never turning down opportunities, and they recognized that and said, hey, this guy's doing a good job, let's give him another opportunity. And so it just kind of progressed for me that way naturally. And I feel pretty comfortable and confident that if people take that approach, where they give the best effort they can in their current job, and they work with mentors along the way to make sure that they're excelling and growing, that new opportunities will come their way.
Yeah. Do you have any beliefs or values that you think have helped you be successful? I know you kind of just touched on kind of the importance of hard work, but is there anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of phrases that I always try to live by. I mean, one of those is always try to give more than you take out. So, especially as I've grown in my career, I realize the value of mentorship. And so I think it's important to take the time for people that are coming into the industry to spend time with them and help them understand what's important. It gives them a chance to see where you've come from and try to grow in their own abilities as well and skill sets. I think also, I mentioned hard work, but it's more than just hard work. Like, you have to be present in what you're doing to give the best effort. And I think a lot of times, especially as I've seen generations past into more the newer generation now, a lot of folks are focused on what's the next opportunity, what's the next job, instead of worrying about how they can do their job the best that they can. We have a slogan here at Herzog, and I've lived by it kind of from the day from where my parents instituted into my life is like this continuous improvement. So it's like get better every day. And if you have that mindset at an early age and you're willing to take on those new challenges, then I think people recognize that you bring a lot of value to the not only the job you're in, but the company as a whole. And I think that's kind of what helps you progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And on a more technical side, do you think you have any innate skills or abilities that have helped you, or anything that's come naturally to you?
Well, it's funny because when I went to school for engineering, I was always deciding between engineering and business school, right? And I ended up doing some business classes one semester, which was great. It actually kind of helps enhance your skill set. But what I learned pretty fast is that the engineering work that I did in school really helped me be a better problem solver. It's not so much you're going to use those formulas or equations or things that you're using day to day in the schooling part of it, but when you get out, you say, man, I solved a lot of problems in the past through equations or technical ability. But really, when you move up in the world, it's more about how you work with people. You get more leadership opportunities. And so it's not so much looking at equations. It's like, okay, how do we get the most out of the group of people? How do we motivate people? How do we treat them the way that they want to be treated to get the most out of them? And I think that's kind of what I've learned is initial career, it's more technically oriented. You're wanting to get things done in the job you're in. And that could be building bridges or road crossings or track or whatever your specialty is. And as you move up in your career, it becomes like you're not the person doing those things anymore. You're relying on other people to accomplish those things, but you're setting more of the vision on how you want things to get accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely been a recurring theme throughout this series, that people who get up into leadership, it's not because they know everything, but it's about, kind of how they can handle the people who do know all these different things. So I think that's really interesting to just hear that kind of come up over and over. I know you mentioned just, some challenges and things like that, so I'm kind of curious to know, what do you find to be the most difficult part of being a leader, and how do you overcome that?
I think the easy answer is people again. What I've learned in my career is that people bring different facets to each of their jobs. They bring different backgrounds, experiences. And so I think as a leader, it's our duty to try to draw out those experiences and get to the best solution for whatever we're trying to solve. And a lot of times, when you have to make quick decisions, sometimes you don't take into account everybody's thought process, and then people feel devalued because you didn't even consider my alternative. So I try to be really pinpointed around making sure that when I have a group of folks in a room and we're trying to come to the best solution, that we go around and get the opinions on the table, and then we try to figure out what the best one is. And I think that's an important step, is making sure that you do that with your folks and that you set high expectations that you're going to believe and listen to them, and then they'll produce for you. If you don't take the time to spend time with them, mentor, learn from them on what they can bring to the table, then a lot of times they'll shut down and you won't get some could be the best solution of all, right? And so when we talk about challenges, what I was saying, but some people, they thrive on the ability to share their stuff, or they, depending on their personality, they may want to tell you this is the way it needs to be. And so you've got to be able to adjust to those folks. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, being able to adjust to different personalities and make sure that you're making them feel like they're part of the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every person's a different person, so always got to change your approach,
Absolutely.
I know you've kind of mentioned, through our conversation so far, it doesn't seem like you were the kind of person to really shy away from many challenges, but with challenges can come mistakes, which are really learning opportunities. So can you just talk to me about a time that you made a mistake and really learned from it?
When I became a bridge manager, this is probably maybe 15, 16 years ago, as I was moving up the ranks, we had a project in Louisiana where we were changing out a bridge span, and it had a whole team of people there that were working on this project, and it was a night block. And the way it worked then is we had to basically stop train traffic for a period of time. I think this particular block was between 8 and 10 hours. And generally speaking, when you do that, there's a lot of focus from our transportation personnel at the railroad, because when they can't move trains, they're not doing their job to make revenue, move money, move trains and make money. And so we got in the middle of this block, and things were going okay. And then we had an issue where we pulled the span off, the old span off, and the piers they were sunken down a little bit. They picked up, these are timber piers, so they moved a little bit. and we couldn't get the new span to fit exactly right. And so at that point in time, we knew we were going to end up running over our time that was allotted, I think the 8 to 10 hours. And so I made some calls to make sure folks knew this, but this is the middle of the night, so I'm working with my counterpart on the transportation side. And we went about our business. The train ended up, there was a train supposed to come out that morning, got delayed. And they knew about it because we knew about the delay ahead of time, but they ended up calling the crew. And so the crew never made it over their territory with the train by the time the bridge got put in and that they were able to move it. And I guess what I learned from that incident is later on the superintendent of transportation was really upset about the fact that he wasn't specifically notified of the incident, even though we had talked to the people below him in that organization. And so the learning for me was, like, if you're going to have something go wrong or you have a challenge you can't necessarily solve and it's going to affect another group of people, you want to make sure you over communicate that. I think we did communicate a lot, but we just didn't capture everybody in that communication, and at the end of the day that would have probably saved them from calling that crew, and they would have waited until the bridge was in, and they would have not wasted the crew's time in terms of money spent on the crew that they couldn't finish their assignment. So over communicate when things are not going the way they're supposed to, and then make sure everybody's on the same page with what's happening.
Yeah. And kind of on the opposite end of that, you know, the wins and the successes throughout your career can obviously be big motivators, as can mistakes that you can learn from. But at this point right now, what continues to motivate you to pursue excellence every day?
You know, I just, in general, have an internal push to be the best that I can be. It doesn't mean that you're always going to get the ultimate result that you want, but as long as you're continually pushing to overcome challenges and try to work with people to solve problems, I think you're always going to have this positive mindset around getting things done. I think for me, it's an internal push to do that. The other thing I'll say about Herzog specifically is, like, you hear the stories about, you know, Bill and Stan, and I didn't know them, but Brad talks a lot about, you know, let's make this a perpetual company. And you hear where they came from and what they built, and you have somewhat of a responsibility, you feel, to make sure it goes forward the way it started. I mean, to get to where we are today, it took a lot of hard work, a lot of effort, a lot of ingenuity, innovation. And I think for us, as the next round of leaders that are here, it's our responsibility to kind of bring that forward and keep it moving in the same direction. So for me, it's kind of both of those things. It's like I'm here motivated because of what's happened in the past, but I also, just the way I was raised and the way that my parents taught me is like, hey, go make the most of every day you can. And I think that's kind of the mindset I try to take.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like for this last question, you've given a lot of advice. You could pick anything out of the things you've said, but if there was someone watching this right now that wanted to be in your shoes one day, what is the number one piece of advice that you would give them?
You know, I think it's just really be in your shoes today and produce the best outcomes you can. Always got to have an eye to the future, but don't chase opportunities just to chase opportunities. Try to learn in what you're doing and grow in that role. And then the next opportunity is going to come. And then when it comes, you got to jump on it. Like, don't be scared to take on a challenge that you're not familiar with, or you don't know the people, or whatever the case may be. You got to jump in and go at it like you would with any new opportunity, and try your best. And then I think that produces more new opportunities for you in the future. And to me, it's really about outworking people. It's about caring to what you do and basically, you know, giving the best effort you can at all times. And I think, you know, for the most part, that's going to drive a career to be where, you know, I am in my shoes. It came down to that. It came down to opportunities. It came down to mentorship of people. Find people that are good leaders and emulate their behaviors. Don't get caught up in stuff that you can't control and outcomes that you don't want from, you know, the way that I would consider some leaders have treated you in the past. Like, you got to be able to get past those and learn from the mistakes that you see, and not implement those same things that you want to, you know, be the best person and best version of yourself.